This is a routine for the puzzle game. It is a routine that builds the game boxes, each of which has 24 dots. That is 24 pair of XY values defining where the dot is to be. The first thing it does, though, is it sets the 25 values of realized to 99. This indicates position has not been realized. And then it sets the 25 values of used to 0, indicating that that piece of the puzzle has not been used yet. Then it sets the red mark to 0, indicating where the red dot is supposed to be. Now we're going to create the X values for the first box. Here we see X value, here's X value, and down here X value and X value again. These are the places where it's going to give you the values for the first box. Here it's X value plus I. I is in a loop that goes from 0 to 5. This value of A is increased by 10 each time it goes around the loop. Well, first time it's 10. Then it's 20, 30, 40, 50, and then 60. Well, now it's at offset 6. Well, down here we see a fill statement that says fill the 6 values at offset 6 with 70. The value of X is going to stay 70. Well, that's the right side of the box. Where it's going down, which is changes in Y, no change in X. So we have the values of 70 on the right side of our box. Well, now we're at offset 12. Well, that's inside our loop. And the first value, B, is 70. And as it goes around the loop, it subtracts 10 from the value of B. So B is going to be 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, and then 20. That's the bottom of the box. Well, now we're at offset 18. Well, down here, we see it says, fill the 6 values starting at offset 18 with a value of 10. Well, this is going to be the left side of the box going up back to the beginning. All 6 values are 10. So now we defined all the X values for the first box. Now we're going to define the X values for the other 4 boxes in the first row. We're going to place the values in the X value list 30 values apart. We could have put them 24 values apart, but that's a kind of an odd number. We're going to pick the number 30. We're going to put the second box starting at 30 values away from the first box. Then the next one 60, the next one 90, and the fifth box 120 values beyond the first box. Now, what value are we going to place in the list for each of these other boxes? Well, we're going to start with a value of that position in the first box. We're going to set A equal to the X value at plus I offset, where I is going to go from 0 down here to 23. So that'll be the offset for every value in the first box. Well, here we're going to set the value in the second box to 60 higher than that. Why? Because the width of a box is 60. The first box went from 10 to 70. So its change in X was 60. So the second box is going to have its values all increased 60 beyond that of the first box. The next or third box, 120 higher. The fourth box, 180 higher, and the fifth box, 240 higher. So when it goes through this loop, all of the X values for the boxes in the first row will be defined. Now we're going to define the X values for the other 4 rows. We define the first row, all 150 values. Since all the other rows are going to be exactly like the first row, we set up a for next loop here that says the 150 values from X value, the first row, to X value plus I, where I is 150, which is the beginning of the second row. The moving of this will make all the values in the second row. Then I is increased by 150 to 300. That's the beginning of the third row. It moves the first row into the third row. And then increases by 150, puts them in the fourth row by 150, which makes it 600, into the fifth row. So when this is finished, all 5 rows of 5 boxes have their X values defined. Now I'm going to move the instructions up a little bit so I can get to the Y changes. Alright, I moved them up. And the first we see, it is similar to the creation of the first box X values. But now we're going to make the Y values. Here is setting of A and B, the for next loop, and the 2 fills. But now it's for the Y values. The Y values for the first part of the box is the straight part, which is horizontal. So Y isn't changing. So you see down here it says the first Y value, starting at offset 0, is 6 tens. Y doesn't change. It stays at the value of 10. Well, next we find then at offset 6, though, it starts at the value of A, which is 10, and A is increased 10 each time. So now it's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Then the offset goes to 12. Well, this is the bottom of the box. Well, it doesn't move vertically. So all 6 values at the bottom of the box are 70. Then we go back up here. We're at offset 18 then. And 18, it gets set to the value of B, which is 70. And then it gets subtracted by 10. So it goes 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20. And that's the making of the first box's Y values. Now we're going to define the Y values for the first box in each of the other 4 rows. Now, if you remember, the rows are 150 values apart. So here it says for the second row 150, the third row 300, the fourth row 450, and for the fifth row 600. We're going to do this because all the values that in the first column will change by 60 per box. So over here we see for the second row, the values are 60 plus the value that was in the first box. That is, the Y value has changed by 60 because we went down one row, and each row is 60 pixels. So we go down the list of 60, then the third row 120, the fourth row 180, and the fifth row 240. So when this operation is done, all of the Y values will be defined for all the boxes in the first column. Now we're going to copy the first column into each of the other four columns, because when you move to the right, that's a change in X, not a change in Y. The Y values for every column of 5 boxes are going to be the same. So here there's a loop for I of 0 to 600, changing 150 at a time, meaning it's changing the row. Here is the value in the first column. It's going to be moved 30 away, which is the width of a box. Now, the interesting thing about this move is that it's a propagation. It's going to move the first column's value to the second column. Then it's going to move the second column to the third column, and so forth. But you must understand that when it moves the second column to the third, the second column has already been given the values of the first column. So it's propagating the first column through the list. Now, when this is done, all of the X values and Y values have been defined for all the 25 boxes. But at this time, those values are just for a square box. That's the end of this routine.